may be seated.
I wish every funeral could start with pipes and drums. I apologize if I get a little emotional today. I'll try to be more upbeat, but if I start crying, just bear with me, and if I say in the name of Jesus Christ, amen, just roll with it, because that's kind of what I'm used to. So, someone once said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you do, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Matt was one of those people who made you feel like you had something to contribute. He was always willing to step up and help someone who lacked the knowledge that he had. He made everyone feel not just good, but important and valued. We were all stunned by his sudden and unexpected passing. But looking out at everyone here today, I see so many people that Matt loved. And I realize that even in death, he will be looking out for us. Monica, Abby, and Noah, the people that he has supported here, they're here to support you. And that's a beautiful feeling. On behalf of Monica, Abby, Noah, and the Hambleton family, I'd like to welcome everyone to the funeral services of Captain Matt Hambleton. Thank you for your love and support that you've shown thus far. At this point, I'm going to turn the time over to Dusty Smith to give us the firefighter's prayer. At that point, the service will just go down as the program outlines until I get back up.
Some of you may have got to hear this background a little bit about the fireman's prayer at Merrill's funeral, but it's worth definitely sharing again. For many years, the author of the fireman's prayer was only listed as unknown. In 2006, we finally discovered who wrote it when the daughter of the author told the story behind it. The author, Lynn, became a firefighter just after World War II ended. The actual incident that inspired Lynn to write this prayer is chilling. One night he arrived on scene of a fire where several children were trapped in a building fully involved in flames. The firefighters on call that night watched those helpless and desperate little faces stare out, knowing there was nothing they could do to help them. Try as they might, Lynn and company were unable to make the rescue due to the iron bars that covered the windows. They did their best to control the fire, but in the end, 3 children did not survive. That night, something stirred in the heart of Lynn, and he penned down the earnest emotions in the form of a poem, now widely referred to as the fireman's prayer. The touching words of the prayer show the pain and overwhelming emotion he was battling as he wrote them. It is often difficult for most people to understand what a firefighter goes through in the desperate moments of trying to save human life. The fireman's prayer is a small glimpse into comprehending the pain they endure when not being able to save someone, the joy when everything works out well, and the apprehension about the future of their family they may leave behind. When I am called to duty, God, wherever flames may rage, give me strength to save a life, whatever be its age. Help me to embrace a little child before it is too late, or save an older person from the honor of that fate. Enable me to be alert, to hear the weakest shout, and quickly and efficiently to put the fire out. I want to feel my calling and to give the best in me, to guard my every neighbor and protect their property. And if according to your will I have to lose my life, please bless with your protecting hand my children and my wife.
My best friend and my college classmate, Captain Alan Mangwasser of the United States Navy, who flew in today for the services, reminded me of T.S. Eliot's poem, The Wasteland, which we read together in college. It begins, April is the cruelest month. I don't know how it will ever be anything else for me again. In the wasteland, April is the cruelest month because it represents the moment of the year when life is supposed to reemerge after a harsh winter. It should be a time of renewal and abundance. But in the wasteland, there is no renewal and no abundance. There's only despair. So in the wasteland, April is nothing more than the sardonic symbol of unrealized expectation. And this April was the cruelest of all, as it swallowed such an incredibly bright light into unrealized expectation. And while I am deeply honored that Monica asked me to eulogize my brother, how am I to make sense of that? I remember when Matt had just promoted to captain in the department. It was 2006, 2007, I was living in Chicago at the time. And I flew in to visit for the holidays, and I went straight from the airport to Matt and Monica's. Matt was on shift at the station on Fort Union, and I wanted to go see him. And Noah, who was 4 or 5 at the time, wanted to go see his dad too. So Noah and I went over to the station, and as we walked in, Matt was right in the face of a young, newly hired firefighter, and he was dressing him down. He had forgot some piece of equipment or something and was getting an earful for it. So Noah and I kind of stood to the side, and when it was finished, Matt came over. I remember your eyes were big as saucers, and he said, "Wow, Dad, you really don't like that guy." And Matt got right in Noah's face, almost with the same intensity he had with the firefighter. And he said, "Son, I like him just fine. But if we don't do things right, people get hurt. And we're going to do it right." For 28 years as a combat firefighter, Matt did it right. He was a mission-driven leader who protected his crews as if they were his family. And he never asked anyone to do anything that he wouldn't do himself. He led with integrity, and he led from the front. The last time I saw my brother was at my wedding last month in Los Angeles. Matt and my daughter gave a toast to Stacy and me that I will cherish for the rest of my life. In that toast, Matt noted that if he had to choose one word to describe me, it would be gregarious. Not so today, but I think if I had to choose one word to describe my brother, it would be tenacious. He was a competitor who lived life at full speed. He loved a challenge, whether it was physical or intellectual or just spiteful. No matter how the cards were dealt, he stood his ground all day long. I remember one time Matt and I were having drinks at a pub and we started arguing about something or other. And it started to escalate, and the next thing I knew, I was laying on the barroom floor because Matt had headbutted me and knocked me off my bar stool. And I tell this story, and people say, was that like when you were home on break from college? But we were actually in our mid-40s. I was really annoyed, and I didn't call Matt for about a month or so, till Monica called me and told me to make up with my brother. He was a hard guy to stay mad at, partly because I knew that the qualities that made him, at times, kind of an asshole to drink with, were the same qualities that made him the only guy on earth I would want kicking down the door if my daughter were in a burning building. Matt lived with a heroic intensity. He dug into every part of his life and he held on tight. The image of him holding on tight resonates so much with me, partly because he had these freakishly strong hands. And as kids, we would wrestle all the time, and he was a year older, so those matches never went my way. But as we got older, we continued to wrestle from time to time, probably well beyond the point that a grown man should wrestle with his brother. Whether it was after a few Jamesons on Thanksgiving at my parents' house, or because I criticized his pronunciation of misanthrope. Whatever it was, he would come at me, and it was on, well into our 40s. But once we got into our late 30s and 40s, I sort of thought my time had come. I'd been standing in classrooms and sitting behind desks for a long time, and he'd been beating the hell out of his body on the job, and he had multiple shoulder surgeries and knee surgeries. And I just figured at this point, if I could just leverage my weight against one of his weak spots, he'd eventually buckle, and I'd get one in the win column. But it never happened. Because once he got his hands on me, I could just never get out of that relentless grip. He'd just manhandle me till it was done. Over the last 2 weeks, I've had so many memories running through my head. I have such vivid memories of those same hands holding Abby for the first time as an infant. He was so excited to be a dad. I could see a clear picture in my head of those hands guiding Noah in the pool when Matt taught him how to swim. Matt's hands were always clapping the loudest at Abby's plays, fist bumping the highest to Noah's School of Rock gigs. I can so vividly see his steady hand taking Monica's as they walked down the aisle of their wedding 25 years ago. I have this memory of when we were kids. We were at an air show at Hill Air Force Base, and we were there with two of Matt's friends. We were maybe 10 and 11. And Matt and his two buddies were kind of running through these massive crowds of people, and I was tagging along, but I was having a hard time keeping up. And there was this moment where I lost sight of him, and the crowd kind of closed around me a little bit, and I sort of had this moment of panic and dread. And then all of a sudden, I just saw Matt's hand pop through the crowd and grab my shoulder. He pulled me forward. And he almost, I remember, knocked over this middle-aged couple in the process. And he just looked back and laughed in that kind of confident and charming way that he had. And he said, "Oh, sorry, but that's my little brother." Matt didn't leave people behind. And he didn't let people down. The conversations I had with Matt over the last 2 years were lined with such an optimism. We both had a very happy childhood. And like everybody, we had our ups and downs when we were figuring out how to be adults. But on more than one occasion in the last couple of years, we had some pretty intimate conversations in which we both acknowledged that life is just starting to get good. He talked openly about how much he loved being with Monica, and he described the peace he felt on their camping trips when it was just the two of them in the quiet. My brother was not an overtly prayerful man, but what he described to me in those sacred conversations was at the heart of the Christian notion of contemplation. It was the promise of April. Matt's struggle was not that he didn't feel loved. My brother knew his worth. Our mother gave us that gift. He knew how profoundly he was loved. And despite his cavalier bravado that he pulled off so effortlessly, his Achilles heel was that he loved too much. He felt too deeply for the lives he couldn't save along the way, the accidents he couldn't fix, the catastrophes he couldn't undo, and the trauma he couldn't unsee. Sometimes the hero's life just witnesses more pain than the hero's heart can bear. St. Therese of Lisieux wrote that in God there is no want, because in heaven all of our cups are full. She went on to say that not all of our cups are the same size, because some souls just gave more during their life. My brother carried more than his share of the load. He carried it without complaint and without rest. He carried it with the conviction that it was his honor to serve. Jesus taught us that man hath no greater love than to lay down his life for another. For 28 years, Matt went to work every day, willing to give his life for people he didn't know. For 28 years, he carried the burden of pain and grief and loss so that others might live. And he carried that unfairly heavy load right up to the moment that those incredibly strong hands just couldn't carry it anymore. And he collapsed into the hands of God. Hands that will never tire of giving rest to a hero. Well done, good and faithful servant. Baruch atah Adonai, blessed be your name, God of eternity. In your light we see light itself. In your immense mercy, you willed the redemption of our world, making the imperfect perfect and making the broken whole. Confident in everything that Christ accomplished on the cross, we commend our brother Matthew to your care. May every life he saved attest to his honor. May every person he loved attest to his fidelity. And may the baptism he shared attest to his eternal reward. May his restless heart find rest in you. Sleep in God's peace, Captain. We have the watch.
My name is Dominic Burchett, and I'm the fire chief for Unified Fire. I want to thank you all for being here to celebrate the life of Captain Matt Hambleton. Today you will hear stories and have heard stories about Matt and the kind of husband, father, firefighter, and friend he was, and the service that he provided throughout his life. He was hired by Salt Lake County Fire in 1996 and served our community for 27 years. So I want to put that into context for you. And I'm using rough math, so don't hold it against me, but it's about 5 shifts per call, about 500 calls per year, and in total that's about 13,500 calls for service that Matt responded to. That's 13,500 people that Matt helped and made a difference in their life. This doesn't even consider his response to Ground Zero, Hurricane Harvey, or the various other USAR deployments that he responded. He literally helped thousands of people, and that alone should be celebrated. He also impacted people outside of calls. As a founding member of our heavy rescue program, he trained hundreds and hundreds of firefighters locally and nationally. His passion was teaching and making others better at their craft. I was recently given the expectations that he shared with all of his crew members when they worked for him. A few of the statements in that document stand out to me and highlighted how Matt viewed his career. He wrote, "What we do is good. It is purposeful and honorable. Use the opportunity here to make a difference every call and every day. Be good at your job, work hard to become an expert, and take pride in your craft." I love these statements and that he shared this mantra with all that worked around him closely. There's a widely held belief that to be an expert in something, you have to do it 10,000 times or spend 10,000 hours of training. And Matt was an expert in every position he held: firefighter, paramedic, captain, and in heavy rescue. And I would submit that he spent well over 10,000 hours for each discipline, so that he could be the expert and make sure that his crews were always ready to respond to any type of call. And he was purposeful and honorable in his profession. He approached each call with calmness and confidence. He took this job, this responsibility, very seriously. And he truly held the belief that what we do is good and honorable. This honorable profession can come at a cost. To help and impact so many lives is not free. For Matt, this cost was his behavioral well-being. Behavioral health is something that should be on all of our minds, and how we can minimize the risk of this happening to someone else. I believe that it's up to us to change the stigma that it's a sign of weakness to ask for help. It's up to us to make it okay to not be okay. Because you know that most, if not all of us, at some point in our career will struggle with behavioral health. So it's up to us to look after our brothers and sisters. And it's up to me to provide the support necessary and the resources necessary when that help is needed. I'm here today to ask for help. This is a call to action. Help me change our culture. Help me make it okay to ask for help. I will continue to enhance our behavioral health resources and focus on the overall well-being of our employees, but I need you to ask for help when you need it. Matt did ask for help, and he was working through his challenges, but he also kept it very quiet from those around him. Maybe if this stigma did not exist to make him feel like he had to hide his struggles, we could have made a difference. But here we are, and we're all dealing with the loss in our own way. I know the grieving process is a difficult one. We all grieve differently, and there is no right way to do it. There's not a roadmap for how to get through the other side, and there's no way to give others advice on this process. But what I can say with suicide is that the pain that that person was feeling is shifted to the rest of us. Monica, Noah, and Abby, and all of us that were close to Matt, I pray that we can work through the grieving process and come to a place where we feel lucky to have known Matt and had him in our lives. And at some point in the future, we can replace the pain with gratitude for having known such a great human. Monica, Noah, and Abby, you should be proud of what your husband and father did over his life of service. Thank you for sharing this great man with us, and we were lucky to have him as one of our own.
Streaming lights on the door. Welcome back to your life. This is worth living for. There's so much left in store. And we don't get to choose who we get to love, who it is we're gonna lose. Oh, it breaks our hearts in two. But no one really dies if the love remains. 'Cause nothing that dies really goes away. Secret fits just like glitter. It's hard to brush away. Bright light and it still shimmers like it was yesterday. And it falls like confetti. All of the memories explode like a hand grenade. And it's sweet and it's bitter. Grief is like glitter. What a mess it makes. What a mess it makes. Passing out in the rage, the what if, and praying on the hardest days. You accept what you can't change. But no one really dies if the love remains. And nothing that dies really goes away.
on after that? So I thought I left my papers up here, but I didn't apparently, so I'm gonna pull it up on my phone. But here's something off the cuff. My dad, if you know my dad at all, he's super Irish pride. So, yeah, all of you firemen know that. He had a shamrock on his helmet. But I was listening to the bagpipes, and I was just like, he's enjoying this. And there was a moment while I was growing up that he was like, I want to be in the pipe and drum band. And so he got this chanter, the little like thing that you have to practice while you're learning how to be a bagpiper. And he would sit in front of our mirror in our house with this like thing that looked like a black flute and go like, and it sounded not good. But it was always so funny to watch. And he was just, also, thank you for all your support. My dad, he was the funny dad, the one-liner, all my friends would come over and he'd say funny things. Like, for example, also, I'm just trying to remember what I wrote because I don't know where my papers are. So there was one time, we were at my kitchen table, and this was just, this sort of thing all the time. We were at my kitchen table, my friend Rosie was over, and I was like, somewhere in between 13 and 16. And Rosie's over and starts spilling a bunch of tea about boys. And like, it's just rapid fire, all this stuff about boys, and then she comes to the point where she's gonna say a name, and she just stops in her track. And my dad, he's in the room, and the more she's talking, the like, more keenly he starts listening in, like, oh, this is interesting. And then the name comes up, and she just goes, and looks at me, and looks at him, and looks at me, and then my dad just goes, I sense we've hit the brakes. And Rosie and I laughed for probably 20 minutes after that. I have so many inside jokes with so many friends, just from stuff that he said. Like, and he was such a caring guy too. And he had this hard shell on the outside. But he sacrificed his life for hundreds of thousands of other people. And through his entire adult life. And this whole scenario, I'm about to get real bossy, by the way, so deal with it. This whole scenario has made me really think about mental health and the stigma, and I know Dominic talked about that. And my dad, he grew up in the don't be a pussy era, and I think he had that in his brain all the time. And it was just, he never thought he could ask for help. Because I've heard him talk about 9/11, and just that alone, I couldn't even imagine that. And he just never got help until recently. And I think he'd had so much like hyper-masculinity, I need to be strong, I need to keep it all inside, compartmentalize. He kept that all in for so long. No wonder he snapped. You can't keep that much in. And so, me, as a 24-year-old girl whose dad just died, I'm gonna be real bossy, tell all of you, every single one of you, in the next month, go to therapy. Just once. Just once. It's not hard. It's free. I get free therapy. They're nice. They're not gonna, it's not embarrassing. I went yesterday. Like, if you can find a way to continue to help all these people, because what you guys do is effing amazing. Like, everyone loves firefighters. Who doesn't love firefighters? But, but what if you can continue to do all this good shit that you guys do, but have mental stability? Like, you can do that, so do it. It's, no part of it is embarrassing. And I think we just need to get rid of that. And this is what's getting me through it. Because this sucks. This sucks so much. But if this can save one life, then okay, that's what I have to do with this. Because I hate this so much. And I love him. So, just please take care of your mental health. And I said some stuff that I planned on saying and some stuff that I didn't. So, thanks. Please go to therapy. That's all I have to say.
So, all the civilians out there, therapy is not free for you. But if it is, use it. All right, I'll try and keep this short and good. Firstly, I mean, you all know my dad, so I'm not going to talk about him directly that much. I'm going to try to talk to the friends, family, and firefighters, people who knew him right now. And so, to you guys, who I'm sure a lot of you, in recent weeks have probably thought, what I'm going to call coulda, shoulda, woulda thoughts, like I have. I know I've talked to some of the firefighters he worked with, and they were like, I couldn't see this coming, and like, it's not a useful line of thought. It's just leave it. So I just want to say that first for anybody who might feel guilty, because it's just not a useful thought. Like, the present is where we're at. The past is gone. So there's nothing you can do in that way. So you don't need to feel that way. He's at peace. He's good now. And so I think we can all find a little bit of our own peace, knowing that somebody who deserved peace, but very rarely found it, has it now. Misfortune happens to the great and meek alike. Fortunes both good and terrible befall both those who are prepared and unprepared to bear its wrath. Therefore, it is the highest honor and privilege of great men to protect the meek. That's all of you, my Uncle James, Lieutenant Police Alan Mingwasser, sir. But it really is your job, and it is of the highest honor and the highest import. And Let me see what I wrote. I'll try to do this. Like that. Yeah, it is the highest honor and highest privilege to strengthen oneself by degrees from a continual confrontation with the chaos of the world. To choose to confront it day in and day out, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what's going on at home, regardless of how terrible that thing is going to be. And that's what you guys do. So I'm sure when you began your careers, and right now I'm talking to first responders, I'm sure when you began your careers, you did so with great naivete and much enthusiasm. And what you may not have realized is that you were all embarking on an adventure. And one thing that is not understood about adventures is that the general public doesn't want to go on an adventure. Like they're like, you know, Frodo and the Lord of the Rings, and you're like, well, most of the adventure part happened in Mordor, and that's kind of bad. An adventure in and of itself is I think defined as it's a journey where one is plucked out of the normal world to go somewhere and see things wholly strange to the general experience. And then you have to come back. You have to come back to the normal world after seeing the worst things you could see. And then who do you have to relate to? Given life is hard as it is. Like, I mean, you know, me, like, who doesn't have all that, it's like, I'm getting annoyed at X, Y, and Z. And then you have to go to the places, you have to go and see the things you have to see, and then you have to come back. And so I think for the rest of us, we kind of don't know that. You're kind of naive. Definitely for me, I was for a long time. I have to thank Taylor Sandstrom. He taught an EMT class I took my senior year of high school. And I had a lot of, you know, I'm sure most teenage boys kind of butt heads with their dads. But I was like, why is this guy such a jerk? Like, he gets home from work and he's pissed. And I came to find out in the military, like, the sleep deprivation alone, it's like, well, I'm not exactly happy after that, as it is. And then, additionally, you've seen some of the worst things you possibly could. So in that class, I kind of grew to an understanding that I wouldn't have otherwise had, and maybe general populace, just people here who don't understand that and have maybe first responders in their lives. I think that's an important thing for us all to know, because that alone, having that knowledge, it improved my relationship with my dad immensely. So I just have to thank Taylor, if he's here. I don't know, probably is. Thank you. You firefighters are all you're all setting out with one goal: to be incredibly effective at firefighting, or if you're police, being incredibly effective at policing. But what you need to realize, because my dad didn't realize he had an issue. I talked, you know, his closest friend, Dusty, he told him that he was talking with my dad. It's like 25 years of trauma, or however much, and he didn't actually realize. So your goal always to be incredibly effective at firefighting, and that's what you're always thinking about, being incredibly effective. But what you need to realize is that you are incredibly affected by the experiences that you go through on a daily basis. So, because I have everybody's ears right now, particularly you guys, I don't know, you guys right there. I know you guys do a physical once a year, and I think if you guys could throw in a session with a therapist once a year, and it's like you're just going to be there for 30 minutes, and it's once a year, and then if the firefighter individual wants to continue that process, they have the choice to, or they have the choice not to. Because guys like my dad, it took him, 26 years, 27 years, because of my mom, really, to get him to go to therapy. And my mom's like, you know? And it took her a while. So I think guys, given the opportunity, would do that. And so I just want to take this chance to maybe bring that to your guys' attention. And I don't know, I know budgetary issues or whatever and stuff like that is a problem, but you know, you just call me and I'll talk to whoever you want me to talk to about it. All right. Thanks.
I didn't know what they would say. I just said, say whatever you want. Wow, that's all I can say. Good job, guys. You made Dad proud, I'm sure. First, I want to thank everyone for the outpouring of love our family has received. We feel your love and support as we make our way through this difficult time. We know you're there for us in the future, and we'll reach out, I promise. As I thought about what to say today and how I can honor my husband's life, I wanted to share with you some of the things that I loved about Matt and our life together. Our relationship began my first semester in college at Weber State. I knew Matt because we grew up in the same Catholic church. And to be honest, I dated his younger brother before. That's really how we knew each other. But, you know, he never liked me saying it, but he's not here to tell me no. But I always thought Matt was funny. Bill was studying to be a seminarian, so he was long gone. I saw him across campus, and I thought, oh, there he is. And I ran up, and I said hi. And we were walking to the same building. And as we were walking, we talked about what class we had next. I, of course, knew where I was going. He did not. And then he said, I think I have chemistry later. And I was like, bummer, we don't have class together. So I went to my class, and I was sitting there waiting for class to start. And sure enough, he came walking through the door, and he said, I guess I have chemistry now. So that was really how our relationship began. He was timid with me, I guess you would say. He asked me to do him a favor and go on a double date. And I was like, am I doing you a favor? But I will miss his crooked smile. I will miss so many things about him. Matt was quick-witted and always made me laugh, as I'm sure many of you witnessed this as well. Matt had a few preferences that were part of his unique brand, his sweet tooth. But his treats, I refer to him as ghetto candy. Anyone that shared a room with him, including me, got to live with empty candy wrappers, under the bed mostly, but occasionally in the bed. And on a rare occasion, ended up with melted chocolate or crumbs, also in the bed. Recently, I woke up and realized I was stuck to the bed with a melted milk dud. And he laughed, and I said, this has got to stop. Some of his favorite treats were Dunford Donuts, chocolate on chocolate, milk duds, Reese's peanut butter cups, peanut butter M&Ms, Grandma's cookies, those were very crummy, lemon heads, sprees, chocolate Hostess donuts. Recently, this year, he said to me, I need to clean it up, as a reference to his diet. So as a supportive wife, I hid the candy. And when he wanted some, I would make these plastic bags, and I would write on them reasonable bags, and he could eat those. But usually I had to refill the reasonable bag to satisfy his sugar craving. I did most of the cooking in our family. Matt did very little cooking. I'm sure most of you firemen know that. He probably rarely cooked for you, and if he did, it probably wasn't all that good. But he did make a few things on a regular. Bacon. I had to get over that my house would smell like a diner almost every day. Along with that bacon, he had to have his eggs. And Matt preferred his food really uncooked. He liked his eggs runny, he liked his hamburgers raw, he liked his steaks raw. when we would go to a restaurant, he would order a hamburger cooked to order. He would say, truly rare. And then my family would start to say, truly rare, because we wanted the server to know, this must come out right, or he'll complain. Matt hated buying gifts, and it was just not his strength. Our first Christmas together, he bought me a robe, and I was like, oh, this is not a great present. No romantic, nothing. I was like, whatever. But over time, I've learned that I just told him, don't get me a present. I'll buy my own stuff, right? Just get me a card. He actually did excelled at giving me cards. So a few Christmases ago, our Shih Tzu that we had to put down had been passed away for about a year, and I still missed her terribly. Matt gave me a Christmas card from her with his writing in a little tiny Christmas stocking, and I thought I'd share that with you today. He said, "Dear family, this Christmas I want to thank you, and thank you for giving me a home, a family, and love. So I got you each a little pumpkin to remember me by. The colors remind me of the grass I laid on, the snow I played in, and the blue sky we lived in. We lived under together. When you look at these, know that I am with you, in your hearts, bound as a family. Love, Lizzie." And he drew a little paw print for me. P.S. It's very nice here. Lots of green grass to run around, and always a warm fireplace to sleep by. I see Yoko a lot, that was our neighbor's dog, and most of the dogs and cats from the old neighborhood live nearby. He could bring me to tears with cards, and he used them. But I like to think now that Matt found Lizzie, and they're together somewhere. But the best gift I ever have gotten from Matt was our children. Abby and Noah, I'm so proud of you, and I know Dad is too. He was just telling me how proud he was of you guys. Dancing alone on the dance floor together when no one else was dancing at Bill's wedding. He thought it was so cool. Both of our children are musically inclined. Neither of us are. Go figure. We both loved watching them perform. Abby singing and acting, and Noah playing the drums. I found a card that Matt had written me after we had Abby. Abby was born, and it was for my first Mother's Day. I had forgotten all about this until I started digging for pictures for today. So I thought I'd share it with you. The card says, "For you, Mommy." What Matt wrote in it. He wrote me a little poem from Abby. "Roses bring love, violets bring bliss. Mommy, please come over so I can give you a kiss. Love, Abby." And then he also wrote, "Dear Mommy, I love you so much. You take such good care of me and make me happy like no one else can. I'm so happy you're my mommy. Love your little girl, Abby." It was my birthday last week. And I don't know if it's possible, but you can have the best and the worst birthday all in the same time. My kids took a page out of my husband's book, and they got me a card, and they wrote to me as if Matt wrote it. And I love that we can keep that tradition living on. The past 2 years have been an adventure for us. We decided to sell our house and buy a house to a fixer-upper. But then we decided to tear it down and rebuild it entirely. I hated about 98% of the process. Matt, I don't think really hated it. He got to be creative and draw the house that he dreamed up in his head. It was a real labor of love for him. We officially moved into the house March 11th, 2023. He loved being outside and doing projects in our yards, so he has been drawing and dreaming up our yard for literally years. He was just telling me we need to go look at trees. Most people say that moving is one of the most stressful things on a marriage. Yes, it was a stressful experience, but it actually brought us closer together. He was my best friend, and we were on the journey together. This past Christmas, he gave me a Christmas card, and I'm going to read that to you. The inside of the card says, "Joy to the world, and especially," and he crossed out our little corner of it. "This Christmas, I'd rather have you than a house. I'm glad we're on this crazy journey together. I love you, Matt." I will cherish these words, these cards. They give me comfort as I move forward in life. Camping and hiking, Bill touched on this. Matt loved to go camping. He loved to be in nature. It gave him peace and made him, and the serenity was just different there for him. In the last few years, he would go hiking in Adams Canyon and the Bonneville shoreline that was by my parents' house where we were living. And a few of our favorite places to camp over the last few years was Capitol Reef, Moab, and Ouray, Colorado. I know Matt is at peace now. His earthly mind was overcome with trauma and noise. These wounds of the mind are unseen, but need just as much care and attention as a physical wound. Like I said to my daughter recently, if Dad's passing can save someone else's life by reminding his fellow service workers or anyone else that's struggling that there's help available, and there are people who love and need them and want to see them feeling better. I would often say to Matt, "You deserve to feel better." Matt would notice a beautiful sunset. He also loved watching the rain and even snow. One thing we did together this year was we took nightly walks on the freshly fallen snow. The first time we did this was New Year's Day, and it was so incredibly quiet. We just spent time together in this quiet space. I also see and feel Matt on sunny days. He would say, "I need to go get some sun and take a walk or a hike." This past week, I saw a double rainbow and thought of Matt. In the song "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" from The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy sings these lyrics. "And wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops." I like to think Matt would say lemon heads here. "Away above the chimney tops, that's where you'll find me." These lyrics give me comfort because I can't change the reality that Matt's gone too soon. But I know he's at peace, free from his troubles on earth. As I look into nature and see rainbows and clouds and sunsets, it gives me hope that I will see him again someday. Like I said in the obituary, Matt was not afraid of heights. He had no problem being on ladders, high on cliffs, mountaintops. And now we all have a guardian angel watching from above. We will never be the same without him. And Matt will be forever missed and always remembered in our hearts. He is our hero. And we know he touched so many lives. He was always the life of the party, with his humor and his crazy antics. Like the lyrics from the song "Glitter" that we played earlier. Life's a party, something we should celebrate. Some people leave early, and others get to stay. Let's remember the good times and honor Matt's life well lived. Thank you all for being here to grieve with us and celebrate Matt's life.
I found my papers, but that doesn't matter now. So my dad always liked watching Noah and I perform, so I'm gonna sing. I played Dorothy when I was 15, and haven't sang this song or performed this song for a long time. But he was very proud when I played Dorothy, so this seems rather fitting. When all the world is a hopeless jumble and the raindrops tumble all around, heaven
of the chimney tops, that's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
Well, that's a hard act to follow. Thanks. I'm Brandon Dodge. I'm the president of Firefighters, Salt Lake County Firefighters Local 1696. That's our employee group. I have an award to present to Matt today. One of the greatest honors of my life to present this award to Matt Hambleton. From the International Association of Firefighters, the Professional Firefighters of Utah, Salt Lake County Firefighters Local 1696. I have an award recognizing a line of duty death for Captain Matt Hambleton, who gave everything in the line of service to his fellow man. I'll say one thing, I learned a lot from Matt. Everyone in this room, I think, learned a lot from Matt. How to do it right, sometimes how to do it wrong. It's an honor to present. Okay, before we close, first I want to thank Monica, Abby, and Noah and their family for letting me be a part of this. It's been an honor. I just want to share a few stories about Matt, who became one of my best friends. One of my first calls I ever ran with Matt, it was one of the first trench calls that our department went on. Donk got sick, had to go home, and I lucked out and got the constant man to fill in for him. We were doing some stuff on the apron and the call came in. So we got to it. It was in Harriman somewhere, and I remember standing at the trench and looking in, and Kenny and Matt were nailing trench panels, nailing the struts to the panels. Bowling was in there doing paramedic stuff that nobody wanted to do. We wanted to be doing the fun stuff. But I remember watching Matt and Kenny. Matt would swing that hammer, and I remember me and Bruce McGowan were the ones holding the panels because we were just new guys. We weren't trained in any of this. We were just kind of hoping to get into the program. Bruce was on one of the other engine company, but we were just there holding those panels. I looked over to Bruce and I says, God, maybe Matt needs a different sized hammer. So he can barely handle that thing. And we both laughed about it, but it wasn't until years later when I got assigned to drive him on my crew that we realized he was just really sucky at swinging a hammer. He knew it, we knew it, and we harassed him about it. I only tell this story because I know that Matt's probably here listening to us, and I know that he's laughing. Matter of fact, if my pockets weren't sewed shut, I was going to have a roll in my pocket, and I was going to throw it at the urn for one last, because it always seems like our world was food fights, me and Matt, and it always seemed like he would cross the line. You know how much he liked shakes, but what he liked more is laughing about throwing a shake. And then cleaning up the shake afterwards was no fun. But I remember there was a time he threw a shake. No, it wasn't a shake, excuse me, this was a watermelon. A watermelon got thrown. I don't remember if it was me, it could have been me. But there was watermelon all over the place in the kitchen. And after cleaning that up, I was mopping, but Matt hadn't quite let this go yet. And I don't remember what he did, but he snuck up behind me and he did something, and as I turned, he was running away, and I just took that nasty old fire department mop and I just flicked it, and it wrapped around his face. And you've seen those videos on YouTube where people do stuff and then they show a sniper, and he dropped like that to the ground, and he moaned like he was in back pain or something. I went to my knees. I was laughing so hard from dropping with that mop. It was disgusting. But if anybody knows Matt, that he's got an immune system that cannot be touched, and so that mop did nothing to him. So from all the garbage that he eats, and he was a garbage disposal. So it was a few months ago, we were at Station 117 in that big island that we have there. There's a Lazy Susan in the middle of it, and usually there's old bread, old rolls, old stuff like that. And then any time that we ended up working together, we get talking around there. And that was a place to go if you had some, because we graduated from throwing shakes and stuff. We didn't want to clean that up anymore. So we moved to things that were a little easier to clean up, like rolls and bread, stuff like that. So I looked at that Lazy Susan to see if there's anything that I could throw at him, and there was nothing. And I knew that usually when you walk away from him, you kind of back out. You don't know quite what he's going to do. Well, I looked at that Lazy Susan and thought, well, there's nothing here he's going to throw at me. So I felt pretty confident. I turned around and walked away. Got about 10 feet away, and it felt like I got punched in the neck. And I curled up, and I looked down at the ground, and there was a big yellow onion. And I laughed. I looked at him. I said, "What is wrong with you?" And he started laughing. He cut to me. He goes, "Sorry." He says, "You're like kryptonite to me." So, anyway, Matt and I had something we called, when we were lucky enough to drive together for about 9 years. And we had something we called engine time. We'd go on a call, and when we'd come back from that call, we would stay in the engine. Whether the medics and everybody got out of the back, it didn't matter to us. They could stay and chat if they wanted to, but we would stay in the engine for hours and just chat about everything, whether it was religion, the businesses we're going to start together, and when we retire, and how we're going to do this. It didn't matter what it was. It could have just been joking for just a little bit longer, or talking about what we're going to do to set somebody up. I'll always cherish that time that I had with Matt. But a few years ago, Matt, myself, and John Van Huss were able to go to a big rig extrication class in Alberta, Canada. It was super fun. But on our first day, the instructor said, "I'm glad you're here. I hope you feel welcome. Now strap on your boots because I've got a lot of things to go over with you guys." Matt was loved by everyone in that class. All the instructors were impressed with how hard he worked, but mostly just how fun he was to be around. He always made you feel like a friend. I believe that when Matt got to the other side, God gave him a big hug and said, "I'm glad you're here. I hope you feel welcome. But strap on your boots because I've got a lot of things to go over with you. Now let's get to work." I love you, Matt. I'm gonna miss you, but I'll see you on the other side. Thank you. At this point in the program, can we get everybody to stand up? Can we have all firefighter personnel exit through the back of the room and go form the honor corridor, please? and not just those that are uniformed, but retirees as well. This concludes our services here at the school. If you're a part of the procession, you've already been notified and you stay with the procession. If you haven't been notified, then, and you're going to the cemetery, just please drive careful, follow all the laws and rules if you're not a part of that. But we'll see you there, and just please drive safe. Thank you.